A human mechanic faces a colossal starship. Awe and fear shake his hands. The orbital station, perched above a quiet, blue-green planet, seemed calm and almost sleepy. But Eli knew that the quiet was fragile. A single warning light or a sudden alarm could change everything in an instant. Eli had worked on the station for 10 years, fixing engines, repairing life support systems, and adjusting the tiniest circuits on ships far too delicate to touch carelessly. He loved his work not for the fame or money, but because it allowed him to understand machines, to see how each gear, wire, and bolt fit perfectly into something much larger. But today, he felt a shiver of anticipation that no engine hum or flashing panel could explain. Something was coming. The first report came from the sensors, an anomaly on the edge of the system. "Captain, you need to see this," a junior technician said, voice trembling slightly. On the monitor, a blip appeared, small at first, then growing. Not fast, not threatening, but undeniably huge. Eli squinted at the screen. At first he thought it was a glitch. Nothing this size could exist. Yet the readings were clear. An object far larger than any human ship ever built was approaching their station. "Is it alive?" muttered one of the engineers, unsure whether to laugh or panic. Eli felt a strange pull in his chest. He did not feel fear, not exactly, but a mixture of awe and anxiety. His hands shook slightly as he wiped them again on his uniform. "I don't know," he said softly, "but we'll see soon enough." The object grew larger with every passing minute. Its surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the distant sun in streaks of gold and silver. From a distance it seemed almost alive, moving with a grace no machine should have. The station's crew gathered near the observation deck, mouths open, eyes wide. "Look at the scale," said a technician beside him. "It must be kilometers long." Eli nodded, though his mind struggled to comprehend the numbers. Human ships were measured in hundreds of meters at most. This was on a scale that made him feel like a child standing before a mountain. His chest tightened. He had worked on engines twice the size of his apartment. He had solved problems on ships the size of football fields, but nothing prepared him for this. The station's captain, a calm and steady woman named Aisha Wren, took charge. "Eli, you know these engines better than anyone here. I want you to inspect the docking systems as soon as the ship arrives. We need to be ready." Eli swallowed hard. He had never faced anything like this. Not in training, not in simulations, not in his wildest dreams. He nodded. "Yes, Captain," he said, his voice steady, even as his hands betrayed him. The starship drew closer. Every meter revealed more of its design. Smooth, flowing lines of metal intertwined with what looked like some strange crystalline structure. Panels pulsed with light, almost like veins carrying energy. The ship was huge, beautiful, and intimidating all at once. Eli felt a tug in his chest, a mix of fear, respect, and awe. As he prepared his tools, Eli thought about the human skill that had brought him this far. Years of practice, years of learning from mistakes, years of bending stubborn engines into obedience. And now, in front of something far beyond his understanding, he realized that all of that experience mattered more than ever. Humans were small, fragile, and temporary. But their ingenuity, their curiosity, that was something else entirely. The ship entered the station's orbit slowly, deliberately. Its size caused a slight gravitational wobble, and the station trembled under the faint pull. Eli steadied himself, placing one hand on the metal railing. He looked up, trying to take in the full scale. The observation deck was high above the station's docking bay, but even from this height, the starship's sheer bulk swallowed the view. A communication panel flickered, signaling an incoming message. The captain stepped forward and activated it. "This is Captain Wren of Orbital Station Sigma 12. We welcome your arrival. Please identify yourself." There was no reply. Instead, a faint hum resonated through the station. Not sound exactly, more like a vibration felt in the bones. It was steady, gentle, and yet overwhelming. The crew froze. Eli's hands shook again. He tried to remember to breathe. "Is it speaking?" one of the engineers whispered. Eli shook his head. "I don't think it's words, not the way we understand words." He felt a strange thrill. Humans had always been explorers, learners, fixers of the unknown, and here was a challenge unlike any other. A living puzzle in the form of a ship, waiting for him to touch it to understand it. "Eli," the captain said, snapping him back to reality. "You're our lead mechanic. I want you at the docking bay immediately. We'll need your expertise if anything needs fixing." Eli grabbed his toolkit, feeling the familiar weight of wrenches, calibrators, and diagnostic devices. He had worked on ships thousands of times smaller, and yet the principles were the same. Observe, understand, adjust, respect the machine. But this was beyond any principle. This was awe. As he made his way to the docking bay, the crew parted, murmuring in amazement. The starship's surface shimmered close enough that he could see its texture, smooth, almost liquid, with faint ridges that seemed to adjust as he moved. His heart pounded. He had seen large machines, yes. Gigantic engines, massive cargo haulers, orbital refineries. But nothing had ever made him feel this small, this fragile, and yet this alive. At the docking bay, Eli took a deep breath. The ship's landing gear, if it could be called that, extended smoothly, touching the station without a sound. The bay lights reflected off the alien metal, creating dancing patterns that reminded him of sunlight on water. He stepped closer, toolkit in hand. His legs felt heavy, his mind racing. He could see panels along the hull, some slightly ajar, others glowing with strange, soft light. A gentle hum continued, resonating deep in his chest. Eli felt as if the ship was aware of him, aware of his presence, of his small human hands. Slowly, cautiously, he touched the surface. It was warmer than he expected, almost welcoming. A small panel slid open under his fingertips, revealing mechanisms that looked alien, yet somehow understandable. Eli's eyes widened. He could see the purpose of each part, a valve here, a stabilizer there. Not every detail, not yet, but enough that he could begin to work. His hands shook again, but this time it was not fear. It was excitement, wonder, the thrill of discovery. Humans had always reached for the stars with tools, imagination, and courage. And now, here was something that seemed to recognize that same spark in him. He pulled out his wrench, checking a series of connectors that glowed faintly. "Okay," he muttered, mostly to himself. "Let's see what we can do." Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange here. Eli adjusted, aligned, and calibrated the small section of the starship he could reach. Each movement brought a faint change in the hum, almost like a heartbeat responding to his touch. He realized that this ship, enormous and incomprehensible, somehow valued human input. His hands, untrained by alien standards, were enough to awaken part of its systems. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Eli, status," he paused. "It's responding. Not like a human, not like a normal machine, but alive in its own way." "Be careful," she warned, though her voice was tinged with wonder rather than fear. Eli nodded, even though she could not see him. He looked up at the immense hull stretching beyond his view, and a small smile touched his lips. Fear still lingered, yes, but it was no longer paralyzing. Awe had replaced it, and with awe came understanding. Humans had faced the impossible before. They had survived, adapted, and thrived. And now, in front of something unimaginably large, unimaginably advanced, Eli Mason felt the spark of human curiosity burn brighter than ever. He straightened, wiped his hands, and whispered softly, I think we can learn from each other." The starship's lights pulsed faintly, almost like a nod. And somewhere deep inside, Eli knew that this encounter would change everything. Not just for him, but for all humanity. He stepped back, looking at the colossal ship, feeling both fear and pride. and wondered what mysteries lay beyond those panels, behind those glowing walls, in the heart of this living giant. For the first time in his life, Eli Mason felt the true scale of the universe and the true power of human courage, creativity, and curiosity. Eli Mason stood at the edge of the docking bay, staring up at the colossal starship. Its surface seemed to ripple under the station's lights, as if it were breathing slowly. He tightened his gloves around his toolkit, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. This was no ordinary repair job. This was a chance to touch something that had never met a human before. He took a deep breath, stepping onto the ramp that had extended silently from the alien vessel. The sound of his boots echoed faintly, swallowed almost immediately by the vastness of the interior. The walls shimmered softly, reflecting his image in faint, liquid-like patterns. Every step made his heart race with excitement. He had walked through countless ship corridors in his life, but nothing prepared him for this. The air inside smelled faintly of ozone and warm metal. It was not unpleasant, but it carried a strange energy, almost alive. He could feel it humming under his feet, through the metal plates of the floor. His hands itched to touch the walls, to feel the alien materials beneath his fingertips. Eli moved slowly, inspecting panels that glowed with soft light. Some had smooth, flowing lines. Others had ridges that shifted slightly as if they responded to his presence. He knelt, examining a cluster of connectors. At first they seemed impossible, alien shapes, strange alloys, circuits unlike any human design. Yet as he studied them, his mind began to recognize patterns. Shapes, flow, symmetry. Even here, in something so alien, there were familiar principles. Humans are adaptable, he muttered softly, almost to himself. Maybe that's why we survive. He reached for a panel that had shifted slightly out of alignment. Using his wrench, he adjusted it carefully, feeling the subtle resistance of a system that had grown dormant. A faint glow pulsed in response. He froze, staring. The ship seemed aware. Not alive in a biological sense, he realized, but responsive. It reacted to his touch, to his decisions, to the care he took in making adjustments. A thrill ran through him. Human ingenuity, his experience, his patience, his intuition, was enough to awaken part of this enormous system. Hours passed without him noticing. He moved from panel to panel, fixing, adjusting, testing. Each small action caused the hum to shift, the lights to pulse more clearly, as if the ship were slowly learning from him. At one point, Eli paused before a massive interface, a wall of light and crystal that stretched high above him. When he touched it, the lights flowed around his hand, forming patterns he could not immediately understand. He leaned closer, tracing the lines, experimenting with pressure and touch. Slowly, he realized that the wall was not a screen in the way humans used screens. It was more like a canvas that responded to thought and action, translating intent into energy. Eli's pulse quickened. If he could understand even a fraction of this interface, humanity could learn more than anyone had imagined. He focused, thinking through every problem he had solved in his career. Engines misaligned, circuits failing, systems refusing to start. Here, he applied the same principles: observe, understand, adjust. The starship responded, not with alarms or warnings, but with gentle pulses of light and vibration. Time seemed meaningless. He had lost track of minutes, perhaps hours. The station below would be wondering where he had gone, but Eli did not care. He was absorbed, completely focused, in a dialogue with a vessel far greater than anything humanity had ever built. Suddenly, a section of the wall shifted, opening slightly to reveal a passage. Eli hesitated, feeling the same mixture of awe and anxiety that had gripped him when he first saw the ship. Yet curiosity won. He stepped inside, flashlight in hand, marveling at the sheer scale of the corridors. They were wide enough to hold several human ships side by side. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, with flowing lines of light that seemed to move with a rhythm of their own. He reached a panel that seemed to be malfunctioning, a small section, but critical. The lights flickered erratically, and faint sparks jumped between connectors. Eli knelt, studying the structure. He recognized the function immediately, a stabilizer regulating energy flow. Using his tools, he adjusted the connectors carefully, realigning the flow. The sparks vanished, replaced by a soft, harmonious hum. A wave of satisfaction swept over him. He realized something profound. Even in a machine this vast, this incomprehensible, a human hand could make a difference. A single mechanic, small and fragile, had influenced the workings of a starship far beyond Earth's technology. He moved deeper into the vessel, finding more areas where small adjustments had massive effects. He cleaned panels, aligned conduits, and even used a calibration tool to synchronize energy pulses. Each time, the ship responded, as if acknowledging his efforts. Eli paused in the central corridor, looking up at the ceiling. Light flowed along patterns that seemed to map out the ship's interior, and he understood, in a way that was more instinct than intellect, that this ship was designed for exploration. Not conquest, not domination, but observation, learning, and growth. "This is incredible," he whispered. It wants to explore like us." The realization warmed him. Humanity had always looked up at the stars with hope, with curiosity, with dreams of what could be. And now, here was a vessel built for those same purposes, acknowledging that curiosity, respecting the creativity and courage of a human. He reached a section with an enormous energy core, glowing softly in shades of blue and green. The size of it was staggering, larger than anything on the station. Panels along its edge pulsed gently, responding to adjustments. Eli studied it, analyzing the flow, considering how he could optimize the alignment without risking harm. Slowly, carefully, he made small adjustments. The core hummed in perfect harmony with his actions, and a faint vibration ran through the floor. He felt it in his bones, a connection that was almost emotional. It was as if the starship recognized that this human, small and fragile as he was, had the wisdom and patience to act responsibly. Hours passed in this dance of light, touch, and adjustment. Eli's mind was exhausted, but his spirit soared. He realized that human ingenuity, curiosity, problem-solving, and care was powerful in a way that transcended size and scale. The starship could be thousands of times larger than a human, but it had responded to a human touch. Finally, Eli paused in the center of the ship's main corridor. He looked at the glowing panels, the flowing lights, and the hum that had become almost musical. He understood something that no chart or diagram could convey. The vastness of technology did not make humans insignificant. It only made human courage, creativity, and persistence more remarkable. He pulled out a small communicator, sending a message to Captain Wren. "Systems responding, adjustments successful. It seems to recognize human input. I think we can work with it." There was a long pause before the reply came. "Eli, are you sure?" "Yes," he said, smiling despite his exhaustion. "I've never seen anything like it, but it's aware. It reacts to us in ways we can understand, and I think it trusts us at least a little." The captain's voice was calm, but there was a hint of wonder. "Good work, Eli. Be careful. We don't know what else we might find in there." He nodded, even though she could not see him. Caution was necessary, but fear was no longer the driving force. Awe and curiosity guided him now, and for the first time in his career, he felt that the impossible was within reach. Eli continued through the corridors, noticing small chambers filled with equipment that seemed designed to study planets, stars, and other celestial phenomena. He marveled at the design, noting how the systems were modular and elegant despite their alien complexity. He realized that the starship, though far beyond human technology, followed principles that humans could understand: observation, adaptation, and optimization. "This is why humans matter," he whispered. We see patterns, we solve problems, we care. Even in the face of something unimaginably big, we can make a difference. As he moved toward another section of the ship, he paused before a massive view panel. Beyond the transparent surface stretched a starfield of unimaginable beauty. Nebulas glowed in colors humans had never named. Stars clustered in formations that seemed like living art. Eli's breath caught in his throat. He thought of the station below, so small and fragile against the vastness of space. And yet humanity had reached out, built ships, traveled to distant worlds, and now had the chance to interact with something beyond imagination. He felt both tiny and immense at once, a paradox that filled him with pride. "This is what we've always wanted," he said softly. To reach farther, to learn more, to touch the unknown. A soft pulse of light ran across the panel as if the ship had heard him. Eli smiled, realizing that this moment, small, human, and fragile, was the beginning of something much larger. Humanity, with all its imperfections, could rise to meet the stars, and perhaps in the process, teach the universe something about courage, curiosity, and care. He straightened, preparing to explore further. He knew that there would be challenges, puzzles, and mysteries ahead. But for the first time, he felt truly confident. Human ingenuity was enough to face the unknown. The starship was vast, alien, and incomprehensible, but it had acknowledged him. It had allowed a human hand to shape its systems, to awaken part of its potential. Eli Mason smiled again, feeling the hum of the ship resonate with his own heartbeat. He understood clearly and profoundly that this encounter was not just about technology. It was about partnership, discovery, the unique and irreplaceable value of being human. And as he moved deeper into the starship, every step filled with awe and determination, he realized one truth that would stay with him forever. Even in the presence of the unimaginable, humans had the power to touch the universe. Eli Mason stood in the heart of the Colossal Starship, his eyes scanning the vast interior around him. The walls shimmered with flowing light, panels shifting gently as if alive. The hum of energy beneath his feet resonated in his chest, steady and strong. He had learned to listen to it, to feel the subtle changes in rhythm and vibration, and he had grown to trust that his human touch made a difference. For hours, or perhaps days, he could not be certain. He had explored corridors, chambers, and control interfaces far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. Each adjustment he made, each calibration he completed, had brought the ship to life, allowing its systems to respond in harmony. But now, standing before the central interface, a wall of pure light, crystal, and flowing energy, he realized the true purpose of this enormous vessel was yet to be revealed. Eli's fingers hovered over the surface, hesitating. Unlike any human machine, this starship did not require brute force or complex commands. It responded to intent, creativity, and careful observation. He had learned to communicate with it through subtle movements, adjustments, and touches. And now, deep in the core of the ship, he needed to bridge the final gap, to awaken the systems that would allow it to share its knowledge with humanity. He began carefully, touching panels in a sequence he had discovered through observation. Lights pulsed rhythmically, patterns forming in response to his actions. The ship's hum rose, vibrating in harmony with his heartbeat. For a moment he felt a wave of doubt. Was he overstepping? Could a human truly understand this vessel? Then he remembered all he had done to reach this moment. Every repair, every adjustment, every spark of curiosity had led here. Humans were not just operators or mechanics. Humans were thinkers, problem solvers, creators. And that creativity, that ingenuity, was what allowed him to stand here, shaping the future. Slowly, the wall of light shifted, revealing a projection of stars, planets, and cosmic structures far beyond the station's view. Eli gasped. The starship was not merely a vessel for travel. It was a library, a vessel of knowledge and exploration. It contained maps, data streams, and energy fields documenting entire regions of space, star systems humans had never dreamed of reaching. He leaned closer, tracing lines of energy with his fingertips. As he touched, patterns shifted, showing trajectories of planets, the flow of stellar winds, and the invisible threads connecting star systems. He realized the ship had been exploring the universe for ages, observing life and matter, collecting knowledge, and waiting for someone, some intelligent being capable of understanding and interacting with it, to continue its mission. "This is incredible," Eli whispered. It wants to share everything." He activated another panel, revealing data about unknown materials, energy sources, and propulsion systems far advanced beyond human technology. Every bit of information could transform humanity's understanding of space travel. But he also understood that knowledge alone was not enough. The ship was designed to be guided by intelligent beings, not just used. It required creativity, judgment, and care, qualities humans possessed in abundance. Eli realized then that the ship had not merely accepted him, it had trusted him. It had responded to his human ingenuity, curiosity, and careful thought. And in doing so, it had created a partnership, a bridge between human potential and the infinite possibilities of the universe. He paused, thinking of the orbital station below. Humanity had always looked up at the stars with hope and ambition, but never with this opportunity. This ship could take them farther than anyone had dreamed. And yet, it required humans to guide it, to teach, to explore. The thought filled him with pride but also humility. "This is bigger than me," he said softly, "bigger than all of us, but we can do it." Eli worked tirelessly, coordinating small systems, adjusting energy flows, and synchronizing the ship's navigation controls. The vessel responded fluidly, almost intuitively, following his instructions. Every success reinforced the bond between human and machine. The starship seemed alive not because it had consciousness like a human, but because it recognized and valued human input, the creativity, patience, and care that no other species could replicate. As he continued, he discovered a massive observation deck at the front of the ship. The view was unlike anything he had ever seen. Stars and galaxies stretched in every direction, colors that humans had never named swirling across the darkness. Nebulas glowed like living clouds, and distant suns flickered with life. Eli felt a wave of emotion, smallness, yes, but also exhilaration. Humanity had always been tiny in the universe, yet here they were, touching the edge of something magnificent. He realized that the ship was not merely a vessel, it was a bridge. A bridge between human curiosity and the infinite universe. And as he activated another sequence, the ship began transmitting data back to the station, sharing star maps, planetary information, and energy signatures. Humanity would not merely observe the stars, they could explore them. They could learn, grow, and expand. Eli leaned against the railing, watching the stars. His hands, once trembling with awe, were steady now. Fear had transformed into purpose. Humans were small, yes, but in their ingenuity, courage, and curiosity, they were capable of greatness. He had seen it firsthand. One human hand, guided by thought and care, could awaken a starship older and larger than any human mind could imagine. A soft vibration ran through the floor, a signal from the ship. Eli understood it as an acknowledgement, a silent message. Humans were ready. The vessel's systems had accepted his guidance, and through him, humanity would step into a new era. He thought about the crew at the station, the engineers and scientists who had worked tirelessly to reach this point. The knowledge he was transmitting could change their lives, their understanding, and the future of humanity itself. He felt a surge of responsibility. This was not just about exploration, it was about stewardship. Humans were being entrusted with something immense. They had the chance to shape the future of countless worlds, guided not by conquest or greed, but by curiosity, learning, and care. Eli began to record detailed instructions, diagrams, and sequences that could help humans understand and interact with the ship. He realized that the vessel's design was modular. Its systems could be adapted, studied, and replicated. With human creativity guiding it, humanity could reach farther faster, and with a wisdom that no brute force could provide. Hours became days as Eli continued his work. He explored more chambers, discovered energy cores, propulsion mechanisms, and communication interfaces. Each adjustment brought harmony to the ship, unlocking more of its potential. And with each success, he felt an increasing certainty. Humans were not just passengers in the universe. They were participants, creators, explorers. Finally, Eli paused before a massive central console. The ship's lights pulsed gently, synchronized with his heartbeat. He reached out, and as his fingers touched the surface, a cascade of information flowed across his mind. Star systems, wormholes, energy networks, and signs of life, all recorded, analyzed, and ready to be shared. He smiled. This was more than he had ever dreamed. Humans had always imagined reaching the stars, but now they had the tools, the guidance, and the opportunity. And all it had taken was a human hand, steady and careful, reaching out with curiosity and courage. Eli stepped back, looking at the vast interior of the starship. The hum beneath his feet was no longer just a vibration. It was a song of potential, a harmony between human ingenuity and the infinite possibilities of the universe. He transmitted the final messages to the station, knowing that when the crew received them, humanity would stand at the threshold of a new era, one that valued creativity, courage, and learning above all else. One that recognized the unique strengths of humans, curiosity, ingenuity, and heart. Eli Mason stepped onto the observation deck one last time, gazing out at the swirling stars. He felt small, yes, but in that smallness he found strength. Humanity had the power to explore, to learn, and to grow. And now, guided by the trust of a colossal starship, they could step boldly into the unknown. The hum of the starship rose once more, a gentle vibration that resonated through the ship and through Eli himself. It was a promise, a call, and a celebration. Humanity had faced the unimaginable, and through courage, creativity, and care, they had been welcomed into the cosmos. Eli closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the vessel and the heartbeat of humanity itself. He knew that this was only the beginning. One human hand had made a difference, and now countless others could follow. Together, they would reach farther than anyone had dreamed, touching the stars with ingenuity, wonder, and heart. And as he opened his eyes, staring out at the endless galaxy, Eli Mason smiled. Humanity's dawn had begun.